Hello guys, in this video we're going to be building a video meeting web app using Python and Flask framework. First we log in and then create a meeting. After creating a meeting, you get a room ID which anyone can use to join the meeting. So now we'll copy the room ID and then we can send it to whoever after we join the meeting. Now let's open another instance of this and then we log in as well. So now we can join meeting from the other device, put in the room ID and then join. So all we have to do is set a username, click on join, and that's all. So you can see both users right there, their names and every other piece of information there. There is also a chat room which we can use to also communicate. So basically this is how it works. So we're going to be building this project from scratch using Python and Flask framework. So let's dive right in. First, we create a new Python project. So you can call it whatever you want. And then we install Flask using terminal. Now let's initialize Flask. Import Flask. Render templates request, which we're going to make use of later. We are just going to create a home URL which says hello. And that works. Now we can begin building the structure for our project. So we create a new folder called templates and then we create login. We also create register HTML and then we can start working with that. Now let's define our login and register URL and function. So it's just going to render the page register.html, which is what we're doing for the register, and then the same thing for the login page, login.html as well. So if we run this now, it is going to print just the title since the page is actually empty. So let's run this and login, just the title, just like that. Same thing with register. Now we can begin modifying login and register HTML to whatever we want. So first we have to create a new HTML file called base.html, which is going to contain the head and the structure of our page actually, so we can use it in both pages. So this is a pre-made HTML I did earlier, which I'm just going to paste there. And for the login.html, I have to extend the base.html page so it will be applied to this page, so I don't really have to write in everything all over again. So there is the title, which we are going to replace right here, block title, end block, and then we can put the title of the page there. Now once we run this page, it is going to bear all the attributes of base.html with the new title, register and login. Oops, we are getting an error. That is because we missed something here. Okay, so the percentage is supposed to be there for it to work and we missed that. So let's run it again. And it works now. So this is the login page right now, and for the register page it's the same thing as well, with just a different title, login and register. Now we can start working on that from there. So you can see this is our CSS, where our CSS is located. So we just have to create a new folder as well and call it static, and then create a new file in static which we're going to call style.css. And here we're just going to write a basic CSS to change the color of the web page, background to, we're using a gradient background, and this is how it looks, which is nice. So this background will be applied to both pages because of the base.html we are using in both pages. So now we can begin creating our form where user can create an account and sign in. So first we're going to create the login form, which I'm just going to create a basic login form, and let's preview login. Okay, we missed something. So in our base.html we have a section called block content, which is supposed to contain our code right there. So we're going to paste it there, or you type it there, block content where it starts, and then end block content where it ends, end block. Now you can see login. Please enter your login and password. We also have to do that to the registration page, change a few things there to register and all that. After this, we can start creating the form and then begin the basic setup of everything else. Now we're also going to add another element. If the user already has an account, then they will log in, and if they don't have an account, they should register, so in case someone accessed the wrong page, they can head back. So we're using the URL for login on the register page. So if you already have an account and you click on login, it should head to the login path, which is going to open the login page. And then also on the login page, we also have to implement the same thing. So if they don't have an account, they can click on register on the login page and it should take them to the registration page. So we're just going to paste the same thing. And you can see don't have an account, then register, and it's going to lead to the register URL. So let's try it. Already have an account, login, don't have an account, register, and that works. Now we can start working with the form. Now we have to install Flask forms from our terminal, and then we can import Flask form and then import the validators which we're going to use for the form, and we can start creating our registration form. So the registration form is going to contain email, which should be an email field. So we have to also import validator, and then data required means the field cannot be left empty, so it's a required field. We also need first name, which is a string field. We also need the last name, username, and lastly password. Now the username, the minimum character there is 4 and the maximum character is 20. Same with the password. Now we have to pass the form to the register.html file so we can make use of it from there. So let's pass the form there and then head back to register.html. Now we can create a basic element embedding our Flask form where we can collect the user data and then process it from there. So let's create a form. The first field is going to be first name, and let's try run our code, and we're getting an error because it needs a secret key for our form to work. Now this makes it a lot more secure, so we're just going to add in the secret key and then head to our main.py and then configure our secret key to something, whatever you want. Now we can run our code successfully. So you can see first name, that is the label. Now let's add the input field. And you can see it is now responding properly. Now we also have to do the same thing for every other label, last name, username, password, and anything else. And you can see we are getting an error. That's because we named this variable username twice instead of password, which was a mistake from my end. So I'm just going to correct that and then run it again. You can see first name, last name, email, username, and password, which all looks good. I'm just going to add line break to make it look better, and Yeah, it actually looks better now. Now we also have to add a submit button there. So I'm just going to create a submit button there. Register. Okay. And this is how it looks. Everything looks fine, and this is good for now. Now we have to collect the data by creating a form attribute with post, so we can get the data the user entered from here. So any data you get from here and click on register, it should be sent to us, and then we can process this data to determine if the user should have access to the program or not. After the user enters the detail, it should redirect to the login URL since they already have an account, since they've created an account. Now we also have to paste the same thing in our login page and make few changes to things there, and everything should work as expected. So we're just going to make few changes to the login page. We don't need much, we just need the email and password, and that's fine. Now we're getting an error. That is because we haven't defined the login class. So we're going to define the login class with the details we need, which is email and password. Make few changes there and pass the login class to our login.html file, and then we should be good. So let's run that and then let's test it out, and you can see our login page is now responding. All we have to do now is to collect the data, store it in a database, and then from there we can begin processing it. So first we have to get the data from the registration form. So if the request is post, then we have to extract the data. So that's what we're going to do now. We need the email, first name, last name, and every other piece of input the user entered, so we can store that in a database and then retrieve it when needed. So that is it for that. Now we have to implement a database system where we're going to store this data. So we have to import a library. Now we're going to use terminal for this. So let's head to our terminal and then install Flask SQL Alchemy. Now we can import it into our project and then initialize the database. So we're just going to configure the database and then add a directory where our database is going to be stored, which is videomeeting.db in our case. Now we create the database. Once we run this program, it is going to create our database. After that, we have to create tables in our database, which we are going to create an ID column, email, username, password, first name, last name, and every other data we are to submit to our database. So I'm just going to paste everything there and then replace it as needed. Now nullable means it can't be empty, and then unique means it has to be a unique input every time, else it should fail to add to the database. Now after passing everything, we can send the data to our database under the register function. So we're going to add a new user once the registration is done. So I'm just going to fix most of these errors and then we can test our page. Now let's import redirect as well, so we can redirect the home page to the login page instead. So we're just going to return redirect and then URL for the login page. So in this case, we're going to import URL for, which is under Flask as well. So we're going to return URL for then our login page, and we are good. So let's launch our program. Once we do that, it is going to create a database which is going to be empty for now since we haven't created any new user account. So if we head out to our project folder, you can see our database right there, which if we open, you can see the columns there, ID, email, and every other detail, but we don't really have any data there. So let's send data to our database. So I'm just going to enter something there, username and password, and then register. Okay, we are getting an error, and that is because we are not sending the data to the right page. Now if you see our code here, you can see the post and get method under the register, but then in our login page we don't have that, so we have to make sure we paste that as well. And now let's try it again. Now there are a few errors here, so let's head to our login page, and you can see some typo I made there. I'm just going to correct it. Don't have an account, should be register, not login, so I'll fix that. Now let's import Flash from Flask and then display a Flash message once the user account is created successfully. So this message is going to be displayed after the user is added to our database. So we're just going to show up the message and then return a redirect to our login page. And we also have to make changes to our registration page, so it sends the data to the register function, not the login function. Now let's test our program. Let's register and see if it is added to our database or not. So let's register. And now if we refresh our database, you can see the user details has been entered into our database, which has been saved successfully. So we are able to do that now. The next thing we would do is retrieve the data when the user wants to log in. But before that, let's display the Flash message. So if the user creates an account successfully, you would see an account created successfully message like this. And we also have to head back to our login function. Now we also have to validate the data in our login if it corresponds with any data in our database, so we can grant access to the dashboard. Now let's install Flask login from our terminal and then import. Now we can validate the user login if it is correct and then grant them access to the program. So if the user details matches the data in our database, then we are going to redirect the user to the dashboard page. Otherwise, we are going to show an incorrect login. And now we have to work on our dashboard.html. I already created this. Now all these codes will be provided in the video description, so you can get it from our GitHub, which will be provided in the video description. So I'm just going to make a few changes to the URL, and then we can test run and see how it actually looks. So in our dashboard page, we have create meeting, join meeting, and logout. So we're going to work on each and every one of these functions so it actually works. So let's create a new route, which is going to head to meeting. And for this, we have to define meeting, and this should head to meeting.html as well, which we're also going to create. And then we also have another part called join, and we're also going to create a function called join. And then let's pass in the first name of the user to our dashboard. So if the user logs in, they would see welcome and then their name. Now for the logout function, we just have to create a logout function with the logout feature of Flask, and then we should be able to log out once we call up that URL path. Now logout is working. Dashboard, we are passing in the first name and last name. And if we run our code and then log in, you can see welcome YouTube video, which should be the user first name and last name. You can see it over there, first name and last name under the dashboard. Now we can head back to. Now we also have to implement a system. So if the user is not logged in, they shouldn't be able to access the dashboard, which should generate an error since they're not logged in. But in this case, it should redirect to the login page. So to do that, we have to use a Flask function which is called login required. So we're just gonna use that Flask function called login required. We've already imported it. Login required for each and every one of the path we want login to be required for. So in this case, it is dashboard, logout, meeting, join, and that is it. Now if we try to access dashboard, it is going to redirect to the login page which says please log in to access this page, which works as expected. Now we can successfully log in and gain access to the page, but then we are missing an attribute on the register class. So we have to create an attribute when the user is authenticated. Once we do that, we should be able to successfully log in. So let's try to log in again. And here we go. So now all we need to fix is create meeting and then join meeting, because right now we can log out. So for the meeting page, which links to create meeting, we are going to return our meeting HTML. So render template and then meeting.html. We're just going to create the file first. Just create a new HTML file called meeting and then another one called join. Okay. Let's close whichever we are not using for now. Now render meeting.html. And then we're going to pass in the username of the user. Let's clean up our code a little bit. And for the meeting, now this is where Zegocloud comes in. Zegocloud Video Call SDK and API allows you to create and build your live video chat apps within minutes. So first we're going to sign up for an account and then log in. They also give 10,000 free minutes which you can use for your development. Now let's create a new project. Select voice and video call. You can explore other features here as well. Next, project name, let's give it video web app. Okay, I think we don't need space there, so let's just move the space. And then we are going with UI kit since that is what we need. But you can actually go with SDK if this is for an Android or iOS. And then we select web and then start with UI kits. Now this is going to create a video call project. We can click on start building your app, select for web, and then that is all actually. We can just get the code and start working. So you can toggle on or toggle off whatever you want. There are lots of features here like messaging, video call, and so much more. So after setting everything based on what you want, we can save and then get our configuration file. So we are just going to click get the config file, copy your app ID and your server secrets, and then download HTML file which we are going to use in our code. So let's click on download HTML file, and then we can open the HTML file. We're just going to copy the entire HTML file, everything inside, and then paste it in our meeting.html. Paste it right there. The only thing we need to do is replace the app ID and app secrets with our app ID and app secrets from Zegocloud. So you can see your app secret right there and your app ID as well, which you just have to change, and that is all actually. Your meeting page should be working with the video call feature enabled. Now we can go back to our dashboard and you should be able to monitor the performance of your web app from here. Now let's test our meeting page, and you can see it actually works. Now we can join room and share the link to anyone, and we should be able to use this. So now we have to make use of the username instead of showing a random username there. So we're just going to modify the username to bear the user actual username. Once we refresh our meeting page, it should bear the username. You can see everything tech instead of the random username. And also we should have a title for our page, which we're going to call meeting. And also we need to implement CSS styling, so this looks a lot better. Maybe we use our background from our previous pages. So I'm just going to import our CSS styling, and here we go. This looks better with the gradient. Now we would also want to add a button so that the user can click on it and then go back to the dashboard. So we're just going to create a new button called back to dashboard, and when you click on that button, it takes you back to the dashboard. And you can see the button on the screen. Now we have to add a little styling to the button so it looks better. So let's head to our style.css and then just add some lines there, and that works. We can remove the styling here since we implemented everything from our style.css. Now let's test our program, and you can see back to dashboard. Click on it, it takes you back. Click on create meeting, it takes you here. So our meeting page is fixed and we can actually create a meeting. The next thing we have to work on is join.html. So I'm just going to paste in few lines. Remember, the codes are in the video description. And join.html, we just have to return the URL in our main.py, and let's run it again. So in this case, we have to pass the user request. So we have to get whatever inputs they put in there and then validate the check. Room ID is now equal to the user entry. Make sure you copy the right ID and then make sure it is correct. Now we can redirect to the URL of the meeting. So this way it redirects to the meeting room ID where the user can join the meeting. So let's try it out. First we log in. And then we create meeting, so we can copy the room ID. I'm just going to allow. Okay. Now we can copy the room ID and then click on join. Now we can open another incognito window so we can try it again with another user account. So let's access our link again. Log in with another user account. Let's check through our database the password, and from our database you can see the password. Okay, now let's log in and then join meeting. Now we're going to use the ID we got from creating the meeting there, paste in the join ID and then click on join. Now we've successfully joined the room. Enter your name and then click on join, and we've successfully joined the room. So you can see both persons should be showing here, and if you click on the persons in this room, you can see two different users there, teema and everything tech. So basically this is how it works. You can even use the chat room and so much more. You can end the call and then head back to our home page. Just end the call and head back to our dashboard. All thanks to Zegocloud and their API which we use for this project. Now from here we can manage our project through Zegocloud. They offer 10,000 free minutes which you can use to test your app and then make sure everything is working, then you might consider to upgrade to the premium plan. This is really useful, and there are lots of services they offer, including video call API, voice calls, live streaming, in-app chat, virtual avatar, AI effects, superboard, cloud recording, and so much more. So make sure to check Zegocloud for lots of amazing features which you can test run for free and then upgrade whenever you want to upgrade. And also, the codes to the project we just completed is on our Discord and also on our GitHub, so you can use the link in the video description to check out our Discord, and then you can get the code from there and test run yourself. If this video was helpful, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on your post notification. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.